यज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतोमुखम् अहं क्रतुरहं यज्ञः स्वधाहमहमौषधम् मन्त्रोऽहमहमेवाज्यमहमग्निरहं हुतम् पितामहस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कार ऋक्सामयजुरेव च गतिर्भर्ता प्रभुः साक्षी निवासः शरणं सुहृत् प्रभवः प्रलयस्थानं निधानं बीजमव्ययम् तपाम्यहमहं वर्षं निगृह्णाम्युत्सृजामि च अमृतं चैव मृत्युश्च सदसच्चाहमर्जुन त्रैविद्या मां सोमपाः पूतपापा यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाध्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देवभोगान् ते तं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम् क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयी धर्ममनुप्रपन्ना गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जनाः पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम् येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम् अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनातश्च वन्दिते यान्ति देवव्रता देवान् पितॄन् यान्ति पितृव्रताः भूतानि यान्ति भूतेज्या यान्ति मद्याजिनोऽपि माम् पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति तदहं भक्त्युपहृतम् अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः यत्करोषि यदश्नासि यज्जुहोषि ददासि यत् यत्तपस्यसि कौन्तेय तत्कुरुष्व मदर्पणम् शुभाशुभफलैरेवं मोक्ष्यसे कर्मबन्धनैः सन्न्यासयोगयुक्तात्मा विमुक्तो मामुपैष्यसि समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम् अपि चेत् सुदुराचारो भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यग् व्यवसितो हि सः क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति मां हि पार्थव्यपाश्रित्य येऽपि स्युः पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रास्तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम् किं पुनर्ब्राह्मणाः पुण्या भक्ता राजश्रयस्तथा अनित्यमसुखं लोकमिमं प्राप्य भजस्व माम् मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वैश्यसि युक्त्वैव मात्मानं मत्परायणः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे राजविद्या राजगुह्ययोगो नाम नवमोऽध्यायः।
So, welcome you once again for this 11th session of the course on life lessons from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, also known as Raj Vidya. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya-mano-abhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadate Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamadam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Satrijatam Sagana Raghunatambitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So this 7th chapter is known as confidential knowledge. 8th chapter, more confidential knowledge. And this chapter 9 is said to be most confidential. Because here Krishna is glorifying pure devotion or Ananya Bhakti, Kevada Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, Amada Bhakti. These are many different names of. Also the main verse of the Bhagavad Gita, which is again repeated in the 18th chapter, is contained at this end of this chapter. So there's a story from the Padma Purana where Lord Shiva is glorifying the different chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So he is mentioning about this chapter where one can be relieved from ghostly influences. Right now, everyone is under the influence of some kind of a ghost because we have forgotten our original nature and what we are supposed to do. Just like a ghostly haunted person, he doesn't know who he is or what he is supposed to do. So to overcome this Rajavidya, or the king of all knowledge, is recommended. So can you see my screen and hear me properly?
Yes.
So in this chapter, Krishna is glorifying the knowledge that he is about to reveal. First of all, everywhere we see that Krishna first emphasizes the importance of the knowledge he is going to give to Arjuna so that he becomes eager and enthusiastic and attentive to what he is going to say. More or less, he is also indirectly instructing us about the knowledge. But first of all, one has to be non-envious to know or realize Krishna. Because Krishna is the most dear to us. But if we are envious of such person, we will not benefit. Just like a snake is there, it is envious, most envious entity because it thinks everyone is its enemy. And without even thinking, it bites that person. So like that, we have become so envious of Krishna. We don't want to know him or understand him or about the devotion or devotees. So it may be very difficult. That's why we see people cannot see any relation to devotion. Nevertheless, Bhakti is the king of all knowledge. There are three aspects. One is knowledge, knower, and object of knowledge. Without this, we cannot succeed in life. And so Krishna, Bhakti is the king of all knowledge. It is most confidential, most beneficial, or most dear to us. And it is joyfully performed because the soul by nature is Satchidananda. It can experience bliss, unlimited happiness. That is possible through knowledge and Vijnana, realized knowledge. But the faithless cannot attain Krishna. So the main qualification, the foundation for understanding Bhakti or understanding Krishna or the world around us is faith. And if that is not there, then we cannot progress much in this knowledge acquiring process. Then first Krishna talks about Aishwarya Jnana. How Krishna relates, what is the connection between Krishna and the world in which we are living? What is the relevance of Krishna in the world that we are living? So first he talks about that. How he is pervading and maintaining the entire material world. Just like the sun is there, it is situated in one place, but it's spreading its heat and light to the entire universe. So similarly, he pervades and maintains the entire material world by his energies. Does he do it directly? No, his energies, the unlimited energies are there. They assist him. And so he does not have to do. And yet he is not in everything, which means he is not bound by anything. Just like a owner of a company is there, if his company incurs some loss, then he has to bear the loss. Or if there's some legal suit against his company, then he has to face it. He cannot nominate someone else to face the challenge. But in the case of the Lord, he is not in everything, in the sense he is not obligated. The material world is created and destroyed periodically by Krishna's energies, because that is the way we want it. The living entities, just like the child is there, it wants to make some start a game and then end the game. So it is our nature that we want variety, and that variety we think will come through this creation and destruction, and therefore Krishna enables that by his will. In other words, although this creation and destruction is happening and maintenance is happening, it cannot happen without his will. So not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. But nevertheless, all this work cannot bind him because he has nothing to gain from this. It is only that we have, the group of people have gathered together and they wanted this. And so the binding is for us and not for the Lord. Now, just a minute. So Krishna is the supreme director. In other words, all the energies are working under his direction. In other words, they have been designed in such a way that they cannot go against him. Now, what are the different types of worshippers of Lord Krishna? In other words, who are the people? How do people engage their body, mind, and senses? So even the atheist is indirectly worshipping Krishna only, just like the prisoner is also worshipping, under the government. But the fools consider Krishna an ordinary human. Because Krishna comes to deliver them, they think he is one among us. Supposing the prisoner thinks that the president has come to the prison to meet me, so he and I are the same, then it is foolishness, because out of compassion, the president comes to the prison, but that doesn't mean he's become a prisoner. So, but the Mahatmas or Ananya Bhaktas worship Krishna constantly with devotion. Although one category of people, they are convinced that Krishna is ordinary or he doesn't exist. There's another category of people who are constantly worshipping him. And there are the other category of jnanis who try to cultivate knowledge independent of devotion to Krishna. They also worship Krishna, but indirectly. So how do they do that? They worship the universe. How they see God in everywhere, or they see God in, they worship demigods, or they worship themselves. So nevertheless, Krishna is all-pervading, ultimate shelter and cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karana. Now, demigod worship is also known as Pratikopasana. Pratika means instead of Krishna, they start worshipping others whom they consider to be God. But that is said to be a wrong way of worshipping Krishna. Just like if you intravenously you are putting food into the body, that is only a temporary regimen, that is not the best way. By piety, one attains heaven. So why do they worship the demigods? Because they want to go to heaven and enjoy. But they have to come back, because going to heaven depends on the amount of pious activities you perform. And once that results are exhausted, one has to again come back to this earth planet to perform more pious activity. And so therefore, better than going up and down is to worship Krishna and attain his abode, which is beyond this material birth. Now, in conclusion, Krishna talks about the glories of Krishna Bhakti, how it is simple because that is natural to the soul, and Krishna accepts anything offered with devotion. Krishna doesn't, because everything belongs to him. He doesn't need the thing, but what he wants is our devotion, and because that devotion only can mainly comes from Krishna. And so, if you cannot do that, then do everything as an offering to Krishna. So people are attached to some works or the results. So then Krishna says, at least do as an offering to Krishna, and thus be freed from bondage. Bondage, why? Because we are trying to use something which doesn't belong to us for our own sense gratification, rather than using it for Krishna. So to the extent that we offer things to Krishna, to that extent we become free from bondage. Just like if I use someone's object without his knowledge, then it becomes a crime. So Krishna is equal to all, but specifically inclined to a devotee. That is the nature of Krishna, that he is equal to every living entity. But if someone wants to offer his devotion to Krishna, Krishna reciprocates, because that is what he wants. And he forgives and purifies an imperfect devotee. So what if a person is a devotee, at the same time he is committing sinful activities because he is a little weak in his devotion? Krishna says, I forgive him and help him to overcome such shortcomings. So therefore, even people of sinful birth who are accustomed to commit sinful activities, they can become perfect by taking to the process of devotion. And what to speak about the qualified people, the better to worship Krishna directly. So in the previous chapter, Lord Krishna mentioned that a pure devotee, solely fixed in performing Ananya Bhakti, surpasses the path of light and darkness. In other words, last chapter is talking about how people attain different destinations depending on what they remember at the time of death or the time of their death. So some of them are able to go outside this material universe, or some of them are rotating in the universe. But for a pure devotee, he is able to enter into the kingdom of God because of his pleasing Krishna. And now in this chapter, Krishna explains how to become such a pure devotee or Ananya Bhakta. What is the benefit of being Ananya Bhakta rather than a mixed devotion or Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga? So we see what is confidential, what is so beneficial of this knowledge in this chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna has been revealing the knowledge of matter and spirit, that is also confidential, in the second chapter. And then he spoke about Bhakti, known as the knowledge of the absolute, in the seventh chapter. Then he talked about attaining the supreme planets. Then he's speaking about pure Bhakti, uh, because that is what Krishna desires from us. Then the Gita is considered the essence of all the scriptures. Gita Upanishad. Upanishad means something which gets us closer to the truth. And Gita is said to be the essence of all the Upanishad. Sarvopanishado Ghavo, Dogda Gopalanandana. So that Shankaracharya is saying. And the essence of the Gita is in the middle 6 chapters, because they talk about Bhakti, which is sandwiched by Karma and Jnana, the first and last 6 chapters. And this ninth and 10th chapter, it appears exactly in the center of the Gita, and therefore it is the further essence of these 6 chapters. Now, there are some similarities between chapter 7 and 9, just as there are similarities between chapter 3 and 5. So basically, it talks about the importance of hearing about Krishna, how Krishna's energies, what are his energies, and what is his relationship with this material world, how he is pervading this entire world, what is the difference between worshipping demigods and worshipping him, what about impersonalists and devotees' understanding of Krishna. Now, we'll see about Krishna, glorifying the knowledge that he is about to reveal. So first of all, he tells that the non-envious, anasuyave. As I said, envious means when we don't appreciate the qualities in others. So actually, we are part and parcel of Krishna, and if we are not appreciating Krishna, then means indirectly we are harming ourselves. This and with faith, Shraddha. Faith means that with this knowledge I can attain the highest perfection in life, both material and spiritual. That faith one should have. And the real qualification to receive this knowledge, jnanam of pure bhakti, and the vijnanam of the Supreme Lord Krishna is being mentioned in this section. So Krishna says, idam tu te guhyatamam. Guhyatamam means most confidential. What he actually wants to tell to Arjuna, which is going to be decisive for him in this battle as well as throughout his life and beyond. Idam te guhyatamam pravakhyami. Pravakshya means I shall declare, I shall speak to you. Pravakhyami anasuya. Why he wants to speak to Arjuna? Because you are never envious of me. Never envious, not even a moment. He's always glorifying Krishna. Therefore, Krishna wants to disclose this to him. Then, jnanam vijnana sahitam. This is very important. Knowledge of pure bhakti, which comes through hearing and chanting his glories, remembering and serving him. These are the different limbs of devotion, Navavida Bhakti, that people have knowledge. We have heard stories, Puranas, and we see people doing all that. That's one thing. But that should culminate in Vijnana, direct realization. Just like if someone explains to you about some sweet or some fruit, unless you taste it, you cannot relish it. So this knowledge will motivate you to get that benefit. Yat yajnatva, knowing which, mokshase, mokshase means relieve you. Ashubhat means miseries. For the soul, misery is ashubha because it is not natural for the soul to be suffering. So it is in one sense a kalmasha. So this knowledge can purify the soul, which others processes cannot do. And Krishna asked why Arjuna is not envious, selfish, or hostile. And doesn't see any faults in Krishna. So normally people try to blame God or deny the nature or deny other living entities. They find fault with others. Ajata Shatru. Yudhishthira is said to be Ajata Shatru. He is actually son of Dharmaraja. So he never finds faults with anyone, or nobody can find fault with him. So that is the characteristic of the. Therefore, he can understand Krishna. Envious and selfish people cannot understand Krishna or the knowledge of his devotional service. Just like a scorpion is there. The moment you take it, it will bite you. Even if there was a person, a scorpion was falling in the water, he felt compassion for it and tried to take it out. The moment he took it out, it started biting. So again he put it back in the water. Then again it struggled. Then he removed. Again it bit him. So like this was going on. So one person asked, why is it you are trying to help this which is trying to harm you? He said, it is acting according to its nature, which is to bite others, and my nature is to be compassionate and help others. So this is what is going on. So what are the 8 characteristics of knowledge of pure bhakti? Once you have this, or once you, what will be the, why you should know this pure bhakti? First of all, it is Raja Vidya, king of all education. So, Jnanam Paramam Deyam. There's the motto of IIT Bombay, which means knowledge is power. But the most powerful knowledge is this Raja Vidya, because it's knowledge about God and His energies. And this is the essence of all philosophy. Without philosophy, we cannot have science and technology. That's why you get a philosopher's degree. So this Raja Vidya and Raja Guhyam, the king of all secrets. In other words, it's not easily understood by everyone. Although it's the topmost, it is not easily understood how it talks about the eternal activities, what the soul should be actually doing. And then Pavitram, it is the most purifying. The most impure can become pure. Pavitram idam, purest of all, purifies one of all material contamination. Our consciousness is once it is contaminated, we see the things, everything upside down. And Uttamam, the transcendental. Ut means transcendental, Tama means darkness or ignorance of this world. Actually, we don't know about this world itself. We are trying to enjoy in this world without knowing about it. So even if you have this knowledge, you can even make the best use of this material world and also the spiritual world. So therefore it is Raja Vidya. Sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. And then he says, Pravakshami. I will, he's going to a Pratyakshavagamam, gives direct experience of the self-realization. Just like when you eat food, hunger goes, you become satisfied and you get nourished. All three benefits simultaneously. So you can realize God, you can realize yourself, you can realize this world. Pratyaksha agamam. Avagamam. Avagamam means direct realization. Pratyaksha means direct. And dharmyam, perfection of religion. Religion means something, actually dharmya means what you have to do, what is your nature. And that perfection is service to the Supreme Lord. The service to other living entities is our constitution, and particularly when it is reposed in God, then we attain perfection through that service. And then Susukam, that is easily and joyfully performed. If you know the science of devotion, it's very easy. If you don't know, it may be the most difficult. And again, joyful because you are able to get immediately the results. Even if you do other activities, the results come after a long time. But devotional results come immediately. And Abhyayam, inexhaustible. You can do unlimited amount of devotion and get unlimited benefits. Everlasting, eternal, indestructible, beyond the modes. What is produced by the three modes is always temporary and produces misery. But this knowledge is everlasting and joyfully performed. So this process of pure bhakti and knowledge of pure bhakti are transcendental. From the beginning to end, you are able to transcend the three modes. Just as pure bhakti is beyond the material modes, the knowledge of pure bhakti is also beyond the modes. Both the jnanam and jneyam means the knowledge and object of knowledge and the knower, they are able to transcend the three modes. And but the other types of knowledge that we have in this world, at the most, that can be in the mode of goodness. In other words, it can become overcome by passion and ignorance anytime. So although bhakti is so joyful, the faithless and envious people do not perform bhakti. So although it is the most confidential, why the very minority is taking to this bhakti? Because two problems. One is that they have no faith, and secondly, they are envious and are thus deprived of the supreme goal of attaining Krishna. So then Krishna further says, Ashraddha Purusha. Ashraddha means those who are not faithful. Purusha means they want to be enjoyers. They want to enjoy independent of God. And Dharmasyasya Parantapa. Parantapa, Krishna is telling to Arjuna. And Dharmasyasya means Dharma means process of devotional service. There are many connotations to Dharma, but real Dharma means devotional service. Aprapya Mam. Aprapya means cannot attain. Mam means me. Niyatat Nivartante. Nivartante means they came repeatedly. Mrityu samsara vartamani. They remain in the path of repeated birth and death in this material world. They have unlimited desires which are never fulfilled, and in vain hope of fulfilling those desires, they have to take repeated birth and death. So real faith is the complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. Because Krishna is all perfect and devotion is all perfect, the one who takes to this process, he is sure to attain success in all aspects. Such faith is created by association of devotees. So this faith will come only when we associate with such devotees. Just like I was never interested, knew about IIT entrance or IIT. But once I came across a person who has appeared in that secured a rank or whatever top rank, then I was motivated and progressed in life. Similarly, ultimately, this faith comes from devotion, devotees. Now, Krishna next speaks about his remarkable powers, Aishwarya, by which he sustains this material world. Knowing this can stimulate devotion to him. The one who is not motivated by devotee or devotion, he has to be indirectly uh, informed about him. So Krishna goes to do that. Now Krishna reveals the opulences or how he relates with this world, how he can be perceived even in this world, although Krishna is beyond this world. So he's the how he maintains the material world by his energies. He doesn't have to do it himself, but his energies does the job. So Maya Tatamidam Sarvam. Sarvam means everything. I am pervade this entire universe. Jagat Avyakta Mutra. How he is pervading in an unmanifested form, invisible to material senses. Just like I cannot see current. Like when I touch some electric wire, I can feel it, but I cannot see flowing of electrons, or I cannot see how this internet waves are moving. But still, it is the working. So like that, Matstani Sarva Bhutani, all living beings, Sarva Bhutani means all are in me, they are dependent on me, the existence, and I am their cause. Na chaham teshu avastitaha. But I am not in them, or I am not dependent on them, and I am aloof and detached. Just there are many examples how one can be aloof and detached and still maintain others. So Krishna is present everywhere by his personal representation, the diffusion of his different energies. Just like the sun's heat and light is all pervading, although the sun is in one place. As the super solar Paramatma, which is Krishna's expansion, Krishna controls and supports the universe by entering within it. So, as we saw in the previous chapters, the Paramatma is the witness and sanctioner. He is witnessing even the atom, the Anor Aniyan, the smallest of the smallest to the biggest of the biggest. And in all the living entities, he is expanded as the super soul uh, who is directing. And though everything is situated in Krishna, they are not situated in him. In the sense that he is not dependent on them, but everything depends on him. Since he is completely aloof and independent, he doesn't need this material world. Uh, so behold my mystic opulence, Yoga Maishwaram. So normally we may not pay attention to this, and therefore Krishna wants to draw the attention of Arjuna that he should take note of this, how he is maintaining this world perfectly. Everything that is great, just like you see a modern art, we may not, a common man may not understand what is the theme of that art. But if you go to the artist, he will be able to explain very nicely. So everything that is created doesn't rest in me. So in the sense that Krishna says that although it is dependent on me, I do not depend on him from the material world. Although I maintain everything, bhuta brit. Brit means maintainer. I am not a part of this creation. So just like a industrialist is there, he's setting up industry. He is dependent on the industry for his profit or whatever. Nobody sets up anything for nothing. But God is not like that. He is setting it up for our benefit, not for his benefit. For myself is the very source of creation, Bhuta Bhavana. So Krishna's Yoga Maheshwaram, the opulences of his inconceivable mystic power, says that uh, an example is given, just as the wind blowing everywhere, whereas always in the sky. There's unlimited amount of wind around us, but still it is confined to space. It cannot go out of space. So, so all created beings rest in, although there are unlimited living entities, all of them are depending on the Lord. So this material world is created, maintained for some time, and is destroyed. So these three phases of time, past, present, and future, are produced by the combination of the three modes. Just like when you mix three colors, you get shades of black and white. So the above verse describes how maintenance of this world takes place by Krishna's will and his energies. Will means like we write a will to distribute our property. Similarly, Krishna has designed it such a way how his energies should work. The following verses describe the creation and destruction of this world by his energies. How things come together, manifest, how they remain for some time, and how they become unmanifest. What is the principle governing this? Is it arbitrary, a chance event, or is it well organized? So these energies have to do this job. And the periodic creation and destruction, at the time of destruction, at the end of Brahma's life, we saw in the last chapter, how at the time of Brahma's day, all the living entities become manifest, and at the end of his day or his life, all the entities again become unmanifest, and they enter into the body of the Lord. So this world is basically made out of the three modes of material nature, and all this is possible by the potency of the Lord. Just like someone is able to set up an industry, first he conceives about it, sets it up, and then winds it up like a spider, which puts out its web and again unwinds it. So Krishna's will, his energy, the whole cosmic order is manifested again and again. Visrujami punah punah. It is not a one-time process. It happens again and again, unlimited number of times. But nevertheless, it gets destroyed. So that is the nature of this world, and it is for a purpose. Although Krishna creates, maintains, and destroys this material world through his energies, all this work doesn't bind him. In other words, he has no obligation to do this. So he is not directly responsible for any good or evil that happens in this world. So whatever good or evil that may happen is only our own creation. We are responsible for that. Just like the current is being supplied, the electricity department is not responsible for whether we use it or misuse it. You cannot blame the government for supplying electricity and say that because of the supplied electricity, I got a shock, so I'll put a case on you. No. As long as they are doing their job, the responsibility lies with us. So now all this work cannot bind me. For Dhananjaya, I am almost neutral. Udasinavat. He is not doing it with any hidden motive. And detached, asaktam, from all these material activities. He is basically not interested in this. Neither he wants us to be here forever. He is only using it as a means to attract him to himself. So bondage arises from desire and attachment to action and its results. As we saw in the earlier chapters, the desire is produced from ignorance, and that leads to attachment, and that leads to suffering and happiness alternatively. Although we have to put so much effort to fulfill our desires, Krishna does it effortlessly, and therefore he is not bound. How Krishna is the supreme director? Maya adhyakshena prakriti. Adhyaksha means direction. Maya means me. Prakriti. By my direction, how is he directing it? Just by his glance. This material nature, suyate. Suyate means moving. Sorry, producing. Sa chara acharam. Moving and non-moving. Some objects are always moving, like the rivers. Some are always stationary, like the trees and mountains. And hetuna. Hetu means cause. Hetuna nena Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, under its rule. Jagat means universe. Viparivartate, created and annihilated again and again. So it is well designed. Now, what about the incarnations of the Lord? They are known as the Supreme Lord Krishna's unlimited incarnations, avatars. Avatara means who descends. on his behalf, on Krishna's now, just like the Prime Minister is there, he has to depute a minister to do his job. So on his behalf, Krishna, there are avatars, incarnations, and there are different categories of incarnations like Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, Guna avatars, Manvantara avatars, Shakti avatars, Leela avatars. So like that, for different purposes and times and circumstances. So there are the Purusha avatars. Purusha means they manifest this material world, maintain it. And the first Purusha avatar is known as the Karnavdaksai or Mahavishnu, who is lying within the causal ocean. Causal ocean means just like from the ocean, we get so many products, the crude oil or whatever is coming from the ocean. So similarly, this causal ocean on which the Mahavishnu is lying, his body, there are many universes emanating, and in each of this universe, he is again expanding as the Garbhodakasai Vishnu. And in that Garbhodakasai Vishnu navel, there is a lotus coming out, which the 14 planetary systems are situated, and on top of which is Brahma. And in each of those universes, there are different living entities and planets, and in their heart, he is again expanding as Chirodakasai Vishnu. So basically, he is known as the Purusha Avatara. Purusha means he enables the enjoyment of the living entities by this arrangement. And he is also the superintendent. Although living entities born under the Purusha's glance, Lord's glance in the universe. How does the Lord enable all this? Just by looking at it. Just like the tortoise is able to bring up its offspring just by, or the fish is able to bring up its offspring just by looking at it. So similarly, the Lord by his glance is able to bring out all this existence and the living entities within that. So what these living entities have unlimited desires based on their past activities. And this creation, maintenance, and destruction is orchestrated so that they can fulfill these desires. So he is the efficient cause, and the material nature is the remote cause. Just like a potter is there, he is making a pot, and for that he is using a potter's wheel. So the potter's wheel is actually producing the pot, but it cannot function without the potter. Similarly, the Lord is the efficient cause, and the material nature is the immediate cause, remote and immediate. So being the doer and being neutral, how he is able to do everything at the same time, be detached? Because he is able to get closer, he is the closest to everything. So that's why it is possible. As Paramatma, he is able to get close even to the atoms and the living entities. At the same time, he is in his supreme position as the Lord. Though Krishna is the source of these three Purushas to create and maintain this material world, when Krishna descends as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki into this world, some people understand him to be an ordinary human being or just an Amsha of the Purusha Avataras. So the amazing thing is, although Krishna is above all of the avatars, when he descends, people think either he is a human being like them, or that they think that Krishna has come from Vishnu. So this is the general conception that people think that Vishnu is the origin of Krishna, whereas the truth is, in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Etecha Amsa Kalapumsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Now, what are the different types of worshippers of Lord Krishna, or how people worship Krishna, serve Krishna? Even the atheist is serving Krishna. Now, first it begins with the fools. Avajananti ma muda. Muda means fool. Avajananti. Why he is a fool? Because he derides the Lord. He does not appreciate God. Manushim Tanmo, what do they don't appreciate? They think that when I descend in the human form, he is descending in the human form so that he can attract us. Just like a very rich man, sometimes he goes to distribute his wealth among the poor people, but they try to grab everything and even kill that person. So, like that, when I descend in the human form, fools deride me. Param bhavam ajananto. Why? They don't know my transcendental nature, how he is beyond the three modes. Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. As the Supreme, Maheshwara means Supreme Lord. Mama Bhuta means all proprietor of all that be. So what is the fate of such fools? Mogasha. They are baffled in their hopes of attaining the Lord's abode, or that is the Asha means hope. Mogasha means false hope, illusory hopes. And Moga Karma, baffled in their activities. Whatever activities they do, they end up in failure only. Even including their attempt to go to heaven, like there was a Ravana who tried to build a staircase to heaven. And then Moga Jnana, even if they try to get liberation by speculative knowledge, or if someone is trying to constantly solve the problems through scientific methods, but he's unsuccessful, they don't attain through knowledge. Vichetasaha, why? They are deluded by Maya. They lost the discriminating power by the sin of rejecting. If they deny Krishna and they try to cultivate knowledge or fruitive activities or even liberation, or even go to the spiritual world, they will be defeated. And Rakshasim Asurim. Rakshasa means demoniac and Asura means atheistic. Demon means he knows what is right, but he will do the wrong thing. The atheist means he doesn't even know what is right and wrong. And Prakritim Mohinim Shrita. They are take shelter of the illusory material energy. Instead of taking shelter of Krishna, they take shelter of his energy. Just like Ravana wanted to kidnap Sita and avoid Rama. But on the contrary, Mahatmas or Ananya Bhaktas worship Krishna constantly with devotion. So those who know the truth, they worship Krishna perpetually, whereas those who don't know about Krishna, they deny him, or even if they accept him for their own ulterior purposes. Mahatmanastu Mampartha Devim Prakriti Mashrita. Upartha, those who are not deluded or the great souls are under the protection of the divine spiritual nature, not under the control of the material nature. Bhajami, Bhajanti Ananya Manasa. They do devotional service without distractions. And what is the benefit? Jnatva Bhutadim Avyayam. Knowing me, the human like body, as the cause of everything and inexhaustible. Avyayam means inexhaustible, which means he can satisfy everyone, although he is appearing in the human form. No human can satisfy other human beings unlimitedly. But Krishna, even though he has like a human-like body, he is able to satisfy every living entity because he is fully spiritual. And what do they do further? Sadadam Kirtayantamam, always chanting my glories, because they have experienced it. They want to tell it out to others. Yatantascha Dhrabrata, they are endeavoring with great determination. Namasyantascha Mam Bhaktya, they are bowing down to me. They always remember that I am superior, and they wholeheartedly serve me with the devotion. Nitya Yukta means perpetually worship. Upasate, upasate means worship. Great souls perpetually worship me. It's not a one-time affair. Throughout their sleeping and waking state, they are worshipping Krishna. So he will further explain about pure devotional service. And before that, he talks about the three kinds of jnanis who worship Krishna by cultivating knowledge or jnana yajna. The indirect way, one is ekatvena. Some people, they think that they are one with God. They worship me in oneness, thinking themselves as God. This is known as ahangropasana. They worship Shiva, Durga, Ganesha, and Vishnu and Sun God, but with the intention of becoming one with God. That's also not perfect. Other is Pritaktva. Pritaktva means they think that there are many gods. They worship me in diversity, in many forms as the demigods. Then Vishwato Mukham means they see God in this nature. They worship me in the universal form that I am everything. In other words, they see God everywhere. But that is also imperfect. So these are the three imperfect ways of worshipping Krishna. And first he is talking about those who worship him as all-pervading feature. So Krishna is the various elements of all sacrifices. Sacrifice means when we get benefit, we give importance to that. So people give importance to kratu or rituals mentioned in the Shruti scriptures, because when they follow the rituals, they're getting some benefit, or they do yajnas recommended in the Smriti scriptures. Smriti means, Shruti means which is spoken, Smriti means which is written down or detailed. And then Swadha means oblation during offering to the ancestors. And Aushadam, healing herbs. Sometimes we benefit from the herbs. And mantra of the mantras, or by the offerings, or by fire, or by the act of offering. All these we see the benefits and we think, oh, this is God. Hmm? So then Krishna is, some people see Krishna as all pervading, ultimate shelter and the cause of all causes. This is an indirect way of knowing Krishna. Pitaham yasya jagato. I am the father of the whole universe. So even the Christians, they say, Father, thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So they see God as the father of the whole universe. But nevertheless, they are always expecting something from God rather than giving him. Mata Dhata Pitamaha. Mata means mother, Dhata means maintainer, and Pitamaha means grandfather. And Vedyam Pavitram Omkara. Vedyam means the object of knowledge. Pavitram means pure. Omkara means the syllable Om. Om means the Supreme Lord, His energy, and the living entity. And Rik Sama Yajur Evacha. So the Vedas are divided into Rik Sama Yajur and Atharva. Atharva is not mentioned because it is like a supplement. The main Veda is the Rik Sama Yajur. And then Gatir Bharta. Gati means is the goal. Bharta means sustainer. Prabhu means master. Sakshi, witness. Nivasa means abode. Sharanam means shelter. Suhrit means dearest friend. And Prabhava means creation. Pralaya, destruction. Sthanam means maintenance. Nidhanam means resting place. Bijam means seed. Abhyam means indestructible cause. Then Tapami. Tapa means heat. Aham, Varsham means rain. And then withhold and send forth that rain. Vishrujami. Nigrinnami. Nigrinnami means withhold. Vishrujami means send forth rain. Then Amrita means immortality. And Nivrittischa means also the death. Then Sad Asat. Sad Asat means spirit and matter, the temporary and the permanent, subtle and gross. Arjuna. Then Krishna talks about the demigod worshippers, why they people think that there are many gods. They are known as Pratikopasana. Pratika means contradictory. They want to contradict God. So they try to attain heaven by piety. They think that I will do some activities and I will enjoy the benefits for myself. So they are the knowers of the three Vedas. They take selective portions of the Vedas and they think that by following them, they will go to moon planet and they can drink the Somarasa, and which is available on those planets, and then they can extend their lifespan. Or the purified of sins worship me indirectly through sacrifices, praying to enter heaven. Attaining piety, they enter the heaven and enjoy celestial delights. But what is the problem? They have to come back to earth. By enjoying the heavenly sense pleasures, the results of their pious acts get exhausted and they return to this mortal planet again. Chine punya matyalokam vishanti. Thus, such pleasure seekers who follow Vedic rules achieve only repeated birth and death. In contrast to the demigod worshippers, the pure devotees of Krishna attain unalloyed, uh, unfallible protection directly from Krishna, which is obtained by pious acts. So Krishna guarantees complete protection for the pure devotees. So this famous verse is there. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana pariyupasite tesham nityabhiyoktanam eva kshemam vahamyaham. So for those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on me, desiring my association, to them I supply what they lack, yoga, and preserve what they have, kshemam. In other words, he provides what is required for a devotion and maintains it. And I personally take the responsibility to carry out, that is, he takes personal responsibility and burden of maintenance. They maintaining what? The spiritual and material welfare. And that's what yoga kshemam means. Now, what about the demigod worshippers? It is said to be a wrong way of worshiping Krishna. Yepi anya devata bhakta. Those who are devotees of other gods, yajante shraddha yanvita, and who worship them with faith. Why they are able to worship them with faith? Because Krishna gives them the faith, as is told earlier. Tepi mam eva kaunteya. Actually worship only me. Yajanti avidhi purvakam, but they do so in a wrong way, in indirect way. So they don't know that the results that they are getting from the demigods are provided by the Lord, and the demigods are also maintained by the Lord. So this is avidhi purvakam. Just like we have to feed food to the stomach through the mouth, or we have to feed the trees by pouring water to the root. But if you try to do otherwise, then it's said to be avidhi purvakam, unauthorized. But all acts are meant for satisfying Krishna. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhu eva cha nahi mam abhijananti tatve natascha vantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices and all the giver of results to the demigods. Therefore, those who do not recognize my transcendental nature fall down. So, what are the different types of worship and the different destinations? Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. Those who worship demigod go to demigod planets. Pitran Yante Prithuvrata. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Bhutani, those who worship ghosts will take birth among ghosts. And Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. Those who worship me come to me. So the same thing he has told in the previous chapter. So it is a choice we make. So what are the glories of Krishna Bhakti? It is Krishna accepts everything with the devotion. That's why it is said to be simple. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prachiti tad aham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmana. If an unmotivated devotee offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I accept that loving offering from that genuine devotee in pure consciousness. So in other words, Krishna doesn't depend on material causes for pleasing him. He is only accepting the devotion. So love is the only qualification to serve Krishna, because Krishna is self-sufficient and not need of anything. He is only seeking love from us because he can give unlimited love to us. So now, but some people are not able to do this. So then what does he recommend? Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhoshi dadasiyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusho madarpanam. So people think, oh, if I offer leaf, flower, fruit, and water, maybe God will not give me other things. He will give me only little things. So let me continue with my duties. Then Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you consume, whatever you are offering in sacrifice for the higher benefits or give away, whatever austerities you perform, O son of Kunti, do that as an offering to me. At least you remember me, that you are able to do that because of me. Ultimately, you have to come to me. So with this motive, if you do them, although this is not direct devotion, Krishna is encouraging such people. This is not pure bhakti, nevertheless. But what is the result of offering everything Krishna? You will be freed from bondage to karma. So just like if your hands and legs are tied and the food is kept in front of you, can you release it? So that is the problem with us. Right now we are trying to enjoy, but we are not able to enjoy because we are bound by the three modes. So this devotion will free us from all auspicious and inauspicious, sinful or pious results. So therefore Krishna says, you fix your mind on me. Yoga yukta, yukta vairagya, that is you use everything in the service of Krishna. So therefore Krishna is all equal to all, but specifically inclined to devotee. What is the unique nature of a devotee? Samoham sarvabhutesh, I am equally disposed to all living entities, which means he gives equal facility for all living entities to be happy. Name dveshyosti na priya, he does not deprive any living entity from enjoying the way he wants. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion, who goes one step further to please Krishna, Mai te teshu chapyaham, I am a friend in, he is a friend in me, I am also a friend in him. Krishna takes extra care of such a devotee. Therefore, that's the reciprocal nature. Krishna can reciprocate with the devotion, whereas the demigods can reciprocate only with your material desires or the material activities. Uh, so this analogy is given of a cloud which pours water everywhere. It doesn't discriminate between land and water or the dry land or wet land. Now, if you take to devotion, what is the further advantage is Krishna excuses and purifies an imperfect devotee. Whereas if you are imperfect in the karma, jnana, ashtanga yoga process, you will not get the desired result. But in devotion, even if you are imperfect to begin with, Krishna excuses and purifies and helps him to progress further. Api chetsu duracharo, even if one commits the most abominable action, durachara, bhajante mam ananya bhak. If one is engaged in devotional service to please me, is constantly endeavoring to please me, sadhu eva samantavya, I consider him my saintly devotee. Just like a person who has not completed a BTech degree, but he is on the way to completion, then he is also considered like a PhD scholar. So, if you're on the path to pure devotion, then also you consider yourself as a saintly devotee. Of all these contaminations which is preventing him. Shashvat Shantim, he attains Shanti means peace, attains lasting peace. So what is peace? Peace means we are able to execute pure devotional service. Kaunteya Pratijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashiti. O son of Kunti, he declared boldly that my devotee never perishes. So why Krishna is asking Arjuna to declare this? Because Arjuna has practical experience. So Krishna may say and we may not believe it. But when a devotee shares, just like you have popular reviews of someone and then we get convinced about that person, simply when the devotee declares about Krishna with his personal experience, then it will have more appeal. So what about accidental mistakes? The devotees comes because the devotee is fighting against the Maya and trying to do devotion and is likely to fall down. So they are very circumstantial and Krishna forgives them and enables him to overcome them, provided the devotee is repenting his mistakes. He knows that I did a mistake, I should not have done this, I will improve myself. By remembering Krishna, he will atone for all his mistakes and quickly becomes righteous. And Krishna becomes very attached to such devotee who is endeavoring for perfection. But those who are sinful, even the people who are sinful birth, who have committed many sins in the past, they can attain perfection through this process of pure devotion. So devotion is not deprived to anyone. But for karma, jnana, and ashtanga yoga, you should be qualified. You should come to the Brahman stage. माम ही पार्थ व्यपाश्रित ये पीष्यु पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रास् तेपि यान्ति पराम गतिम्. O son of Prithya, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower or sinful birth. So what is lower or sinful is only relative. Uh, 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 Women, of course, here it can also mean men. Women means they mean who's attached to someone else. Merchants and workers, everyone can attain the supreme destination. So what to speak of the qualified people? If anyone can attain perfection, what who specifically endeavoring for it is definitely going to be successful. How much more this is so pious Brahmanas, the devotee and the saintly kings, therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. So that is the conclusion. And what he says in the end, worship Krishna directly through pure bhakti. So this is the most important verse in the Bhagavad Gita, and it will be repeated in the last chapter. Manmanabhava matbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvevam atmanam matparayana. Always think of me. So always thinking of Krishna is possible when you know about Krishna and realize him. Become my devotee. So that's why always thinking of Krishna becomes possible when you take to the process of devotion. And Madhyaji, worship me. You engage your body, mind, and words in my service. Mam Namaskuru, offer obeisance to me. When you're struggling to do worship to me, you remember me, you offer respects to me, you accept your inadequacies, And then Mam Evashyasi Yuktvaevam, you will surely come to me having absorbed. If you are just like, and Atmanam Matparayanaha, you yourself absorbed yourself completely in me and taking my shelter. Okay, we'll stop there. Any comments or questions? So there's a question here. They are in me, but I am not in them. If Krishna is detached towards his devotee, how does he acknowledge, protect, and bless his pure Ananya Bhaktas? So he is not detached towards devotees. In fact, he is attached to his devotees. Uh, but what he says detached means he is not, he is detached from this happenings in this material world. He doesn't have a motive to gain something from that. All the living entities are trying to gain something from this material world and they become attached. But Krishna only wants our devotion. In that sense, he is attached to his devotees. And that's what motivates the devotees to progress in their devotion.
Okay, so there is one more question. Nature worship also comes with the demigod worship?
No, it is separate from that. That's what we saw. There are three types of worship. One worship is people think that I am God. Because I am part and parcel of God, I am also God. So they think that is known as Hangopasana. The next is the Pratikopasana, which means they think that God is there in, he has divided himself into many gods. And so we have to worship these different demigods for different purposes. So that is the second category. And third category is Vishrutomukam. So they think that God can be worshipped through nature. They are nature worshippers. But these are all imperfect, because they are all indirect ways of worshipping Krishna. And God is in front of you, right in front of you, just like he was in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only Arjuna and a few of them could recognize his greatness. Everyone thought about Krishna in a different way. Either they themselves thought that they are the controllers and enjoyers, or they thought that Krishna, apart from Krishna, someone else is great, or they had confidence in their powers. So we are in the middle of this course. So we hope to complete by the end of June, or then we'll do the practical application. So this same 9th chapter we'll be doing in greater detail from Monday to Friday. So please join us 7 to 8 o'clock, both in English and Hindi. There's a question from Karthik from Germany. By nature worshippers, does it mean thunder god, etc.? Yes. Yes. That Krishna will elaborate this in the 10th chapter. How people worship him. Some people appreciate the Himalayas, some people appreciate the Ganges, some people appreciate the lion, some people appreciate the whale in the fish category. So they see something extraordinary in this world. They are reminded of God. That is also good. But it's not perfect. Even great scientists, after they make the scientific discoveries, they say there must be a God who's an intelligent designer. But what about those who connect with nature, traveling, etc.? So these are extensions, further extensions.
So when we connect with nature we are appreciating, and if we are able to connect that with God, that nature is actually God or God's creation, then at that time we are in a way connecting with God. But
that's also good. We have to, there are nature lovers. So that is also good, but it's not the ultimate. From there, one should progress to pure devotion. Because we see sometimes people appreciate the nature and again try to destroy the same thing. There are many instances like that. Because when they don't see the purpose, they're good, bad, ugly. Because nature has good, bad, and bad part also, but they don't appreciate that. They only are one-sided. What they like selectively, they will appreciate. Supposing a poisonous plant is there, who will start liking that? But actually, we know that poison also can be used as medicine. Sometimes it is used to cure disease or even prevent a patient from dying. So, but these nature lovers, they are very selective about what they like about nature. Like Prahlada was there, he was able to even drink poison. And Lord Shiva was there, he drank poison, ocean of poison. Hala hala. So this it is incomplete without realizing God. Go know God and then you appreciate nature. That is good. But if you want to appreciate nature independent of God, then it is incomplete.
That is very true. A devotee will see the creation of God, will love nature because it is God's creation. Whereas it is possible that a person can be a nature lover and an atheist and not believe in God.
Just like Ravana was there, he was loving Sita, but he didn't like Rama. He wanted to enjoy Sita separate from Rama. So one can be a nature worshipper, but reject God also. There are many such people. Okay, so there's okay. Thank you very much. So we'll meet again during the week or the next week for the 10th chapter, another important chapter. It's easier to release that chapter. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.